never done. Oh, there we go.
Hello.
Sick. Hello. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and Wraith Lords to that 6+++ show. I'm your host, Tom. We're talking data slates tonight, which will be made all the more fun by things I'm trying not to pay too attention to that are being thrown around the internet. But you, the chat, are not bound by such things, so you're very welcome to pitch in and let us know what you're seeing out there and what you think is going to come next. We're going to keep it in the realms of wild speculation, thinking about probably a necessary balance window that we've probably got in the not too distant future and what we'd like to see in it. We'll also be running a live vote in the chat as to whether all of the 6++ teams should be wearing costumes for their event in March on the 15th and 16th. So if you think that we should be wearing fancy dress, 40k based fancy dress as we run around hosting, then I think you have the power to have that. Have your say and make that.
You don't.
Can I cast?
You absolutely do.
I'm
not wearing Crocs. Ben.
Ben, we got Ben in because he speaks to the masses. He wants to see it. I think Ben's got his finger on the pulse. Ben knows the spectacle is what an event is all about. So yeah, if you in the chat would like to have your say on whether we should be wearing fancy dress, 40k fancy dress for our event, which is coming up, then please let us know. And obviously we'll wait for our grumpier, more curmudgeonly, definite cosplayers in John and Chris to warm up and remember their true calling.
I only have a Jedi outfit these days. I don't have any 40k outfits. Sorry.
That is true. That's a shame. I think you'll be all right. I think we'll manage to do it. What we're going to do is introduce our cast of players. It's all a bit scuffed because we got held in limbo for ages before the show started. But what we're going to do is introduce everybody, and then we'll talk about some stuff and start thinking about balanced data slates and all that good stuff. And we'll do some promo because there are still a couple of tickets left to our event, aren't there, Chris? It's pretty exciting. Not to give anything. There's only a couple. So let us know what you're up to in the chat, and then obviously make sure that you have your say. Let democracy reign on outfits for the event. I think it's very, very important. I don't see how I'm getting it past these intransigent, miserly people without your help. I'm going to start where I always like to start. My dear leader, Chris. Chris, how are you?
I'm all right. Yeah.
Yeah?
Getting by the week. As Scrivo said, it's been a long week, hasn't it? We're like, no.
And it's Tuesday.
But yeah, I am here and I'm excited to talk about data slate things.
Data slates, indeed. It's been quite a long time since we had any major balance shakeups, right? So I think that's quite exciting. I'm so excited to hear what you think. I'm sure you have some opinions because I'm sure one or two of the armies you like might be in the frame for thinking about.
Maybe.
Not to give anything too much away. Have you managed to play any Warhammer?
No.
That makes sense, mate. To be honest, I haven't either.
Played any Warhammer. I have finished painting Frodo Baggins of the Fellowship of the Ring, so that's always fun. What I have discovered is I've really enjoyed painting the Lord of the Rings figures, but faces. My God, faces. So when I used to just do battle line type stuff, like I remember painting some Cadian troops once, it was just paint it white and put right flesh shade over it. Looks beautiful. These days, I'm trying to paint them properly, and that does not go as well. I can tell you that for free. I'm like, right, so I've got my base layer on, I'll get some wash in, and I'll start fading, and getting the highlights. I'm like, oh no, it's gone all wrong. Okay, right, let's have another go. And you start adding on a couple more layers. Oh, now he looks like he's from Barbados, and that's no real good thing there, is it? Because we all know Frodo's pasty. And then eventually get it just right, and like, right, now it's time for the eyes. Now, obviously, Lord of the Rings models are tiny.
They are really small.
So you can see the little bit of the eye, and you're like, right, okay, now I have to put this tiny little dot of white in. Put this tiny little dot of white, and if you get it right, then wow. Then you've got to get the second eye.
But you didn't, did you, Chris?
Occasionally I get one eye. But then it's like right now I have to put the black pupil in. And that's like literally the size of one hair on your brush. I'm trying to get that in the right place. And it's gone wrong. Good. I guess I'll paint the entire thing because there's fresh flesh again. Try again. So, but hey, I'd like to say I'm learning.
I'm hyped. I think Bayesian Frodo is going to be the one. I think he's awesome. I'm down for that.
I have painted 4 faces so far. And
nice.
I'm getting progressively worse. So
I just don't bother.
It's Just leave it.
It's just
leave it,
undercoat.
mate.
Tom's got undercoat for faces.
Just dry brush that guy.
Dry
Pick him out.
brush,
It's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You can hear that he's pretty chirpy. He's also here. It's my sensei, John Scrivens. John, how are you?
I'm really good. I'm so full of beans because I had a nap like all good adults do.
Oh, excellent. Well done. And have you played any Games Workshop-based games in recent times?
I like that you go that way, Tom, because I had been kind of not playing so much Games Workshop-y stuff, but I went to a Teams event this weekend. But don't worry, it wasn't 40k, guys. I'm keeping on theme now. I played my first AOS Teams event and lost all 5 games, and my team won 1 game and drew 1. So I think we did all right, considering we did not have a very good composition. Most of us hadn't even played the missions before. Like I was learning what.
It sounds like our pirate.
Yeah, it was great. Like, but we weren't like wannabe England players, Tom. We were the Discord All Stars from a different Discord, and it was just like, yeah, this is embarrassing. But no, it was really good learning. What I really enjoyed is it was at the TSN Arena, Rob's Arena, and rather than it being like you play someone randomly and then you just get paired up and kind of like you hit your kind of people, because there was 6 teams, you played everyone. So everyone at the event got to play every team, and it was really kind of fun. I liked that because it became quite a social. Everyone went for dinner on the Saturday evening, and it just felt nice. And I came out of it going, I lost 5 games, and I actually felt the most chipper I felt after losing 5 games of Warhammer, despite losing 5 games. And I was like, that means I had a good weekend. So
it does mean that, yeah.
Rather than just sitting there going, why didn't I win more? I was like, because my army was shite and I was shite. That's the truth. That is fine.
I think that's a very important understanding to arrive at, mate. It sounds like it was a very good time. And obviously Bone Reaper's buffs, I'm sure, will be in the mail. Maybe we'll just talk about AOS today and just prescribe AOS.
I am doing a 40k event this weekend. I'm going down to Cardiff for an RTT. Yeah.
Oh, sick. That's fun.
Yeah.
Cardiff.
You keep me guessing, John. But I never have any understanding about why you do any of the stuff that you do.
I don't know.
I mean, it's like you don't tell any of us you're doing it either. You just rattle around.
This is because it's for teams. It's teams
team
Wales
now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we've got a practice on the Sunday, but there's an RTT on the Saturday, so we all get to play an actual event as well. So
that'd be really fun. Yeah. Speaking of RTTs, Ben's also here. Ben, how are you?
Oh, the winner. We're not worthy.
I'm going. See you later.
King
I was great until I woke up and then just got bullied by everybody today for some reason. Like, what is it?
For those that aren't aware, we've been on Ben's case today for no reason at all, other than we felt
literally not.
It's
done
fun.
Nothing.
It's fun, Tom. That's why.
He's a lovely man, but I've been bullying him in every WhatsApp. I've sort of re-entered WhatsApp. I've been sick, as people will know, for a week. So I've been quite dormant, but I've now reappeared, and now I'm putting my weight about, basically.
Making up for lost time.
Ben's been a victim of that, so I can only apologise. But have you done anything exciting Warhammer-wise in recent times?
I was indeed at an RTT this weekend.
No way!
Crazy, right? Crazy. It was actually one sort of half hosted by me, so it was actually sort of like one of my really local ones.
Nice.
Where I run the club at, and I missed out on first place by 2 points.
Which is very respectful of you if it's your event. Nice.
Yeah, absolutely intended that I didn't get first place.
Well, I think that given Drakari have not had the easiest time, I guess maybe we'll touch upon. I think that's pretty impressive, man. Well done. That's very cool.
Thank you. Finally, some nice words from Tom today.
Oh well, you know.
But it was backhanded.
No, not at all. I do genuinely. I think Ben's doing great, so don't listen to me. Sure. Right, we're going to shout out some people in the chat. I want to shout out Seth Taylor, who's just become a YouTube member. You can do that, guys. We're not stopping now until we're in a yacht in Monaco playing Warhammer, and you guys are helping us get there. Crossed over 100 members. Chris and I have recorded a Q&A that will go out on Friday to say thank you for that. But we want 200, so join Seth and become a YouTube member and get us all the way there.
We need 200.
Sorry, we need 200. Yeah,
at least
our value is linked directly to the numbers, as you'll all know. That's something that you need to know about us, and we just want more and more and more. So thank you very much to Seth for doing that, and you should all come and join him. But if not, we'll settle for a like and subscribe and a comment on the video as well. Patrick Barron's in, Picklex is in. Oninada's in. There's actually tons of you in. This is very exciting. Berry is in. John Black is in. Slate is my pirate performance at one point. We'll get back to that in a second. Matt Riley's in. Hello. Sam Dunn is in. Ian's in. Gordy Chug's in. Yeah, this is a thriving chat. So very exciting. Not as many people weighing in on whether we should be doing fancy dress for our event yet as I'd like, but yes, there's still time. And yeah, I'm going to say we've talked about it on a live stream. I did a live stream on yesterday, which was Monday. I'm not with it today. No. My brain doesn't actually fully work again yet. But basically, Pyro was amazing. We had a very good time. I was unfortunately incredibly sick for the entirety of the event. I came down with a very nasty virus, basically just as we were due to leave to go to Pyro, and then had to play through that for 5 games against some of the toughest opponents I've ever played. So it was quite an interesting ordeal, and it has taken me the entirety of the time since then to emotionally recover. But we're there now. We're gradually getting back at it. I had actually quite a Pavlovian response whenever I thought about Warhammer. I felt sick again, which actually lingered for several days after the illness had gone. But I think that's now settling down, so I can probably actually do 40k again, which is nice. A little bit of a break though was good. So, all right, we're going to do a little bit of self-promotion because we do have a tiny bit of self-promotion to do vis-a-vis our event, and then we'll crack on. Chris, is there still time? Can people still come and join us at our first ever GT in a couple of weeks' time?
There is still time, but not much.
Not much.
Yeah, so as everyone knows, because it's not like we have been shy about talking about it, we've got a 60-player event coming up on March 15th and 16th in Barnsley, United Kingdom, at Prestige Wargaming. And we have now actually just reduced the numbers because in order to make sure we've got the streaming set up. So we could have a 60-player event, but then the streaming becomes a bit of a nightmare just for space reasons. The room we were going to use for streaming turns out to be some sort of hobbit hole because apparently we can't get the streaming equipment high enough in it. So therefore, we're having to reduce a few of the tables. I've kind of spoken to John about it, and we reckon we can get 56. I did say 54, but I think we can get 56. At the time of recording, we have sold 52 tickets. One ticket is pending. Mr. Johnny Simmons, I believe.
Yes.
And so that would leave 3 tickets remaining. John C says, "I'm impressed you've managed to get 50 people to go to Barnsley."
That is how much people like us.
Absolutely.
They will all slip across.
Idiots.
Also, the Prestige, by the way, Prestige is an awesome venue. Like, it's a very cool place. WTC terrain, really run by people that absolutely adore this hobby. People have a great time.
And at the moment, we're just basically there like, have we got enough stuff for prizes? And we're like, don't know. Let's just throw more money at prizes. Like our outgoings of this, because obviously we work with Prestige, our hiring of the venue and that sort of thing is actually very cheap. So
we've been very nice.
Basically, it's do we want money? Or do we want to give the people prizes? Is basically our discussion. Apparently, we want to give people prizes.
We just want to give you stuff, guys.
More stuff, just more and more stuff. So, we just keep constantly adding vouchers and stuff onto our different prizes. We've got trophies, got a whole host of things. So, it's going to be a really good event, really great times. All of us who are event organisers will be wearing normal clothes. And
underneath our 40k outfits,
sponsored
clothes. In fact, Tom, some might say.
Yes, because of course whilst working in Prestige, we also work with Gambit Gaming. I am currently wearing my Eldari one, although it's probably got some other name. And Scrivo, are you wearing
my Orcs one?
You're wearing your Orcs one.
Just mix it up a bit.
And we've got
Gambit Gaming. I will put a top on.
We've got a couple of vouchers
for the podcast listeners. He's not topless.
We're not quite there yet.
But yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited. We're now in that final straight now. A lot of the abuse for Ben has been in the one of the WhatsApp group chats that we have created specifically for anyone who ever plays in a 6++ event. Get added to a WhatsApp group on top of an announcement group we have. So yeah, very very excited.
100%. I think it's definitely going to be. I'm just so excited. I think the actual event is going to be really fun. We've got a really cool crowd of people, and it's just going to be fun. I think I'm just excited to throw all our energy at just a weekend where we can just make the event all about all these other wonderful people that are coming in. Actually, it's not getting distracted by I've got to go and play a game or I've got XYZ mission match up. Just actually for the weekend we can just give a lot back to all the wonderful people who've supported us and who've come all this way to come and play at the event. It's going to be really, really cool. Can't wait to meet so many people from the Discord and all these things as well. So if you want to snag one of those last couple of tickets, you should get involved. I can promise you'll be glad you go. And I can't give you an illness because I'm recovered now. So there's no way that's happening twice in a very short.
Not sure that's
space
how
of
it
time,
works,
right?
Tom. That's
Oh,
not
it
how
definitely
works.
is. It's science. I'm immune now. That's how it works. Cool. All right. Well, we're going to move this along. We're going to think balanced data slate. So I don't think it's not unreasonable to assume we're probably going to see balance change before too long. And I think it's been an interesting meta since Grotmas, and we're a few months into that. And there's been some standouts. There's been a few things we like. There's been a few things maybe we're less keen on. And what we're going to do today is have a natter around what we think we might like to see and what sorts of things we think would be interesting to change going forwards into the new meta. Because obviously it is still relatively unsettled, unsolved. I don't feel like we're seeing all the same things winning all the time, but there's definitely a few things I think we'd like to change. So what I'm going to do is go around our cast of players and invite them to comment. But what I'm going to get from them first is a vibe. I want a vibe from them on how they feel the last data slate has been and the sort of Grotmas era in this sort of more recent sort of run of sort of months we've had of the game. How has that been for balance to your untrained eye or for you out there in the game playing? And how would you rate it? And we'll start with you, Ben.
I think it's been pretty good. I think it's been really balanced. Like I don't think there's been anything too devastating out there. Like I felt like I've had a game into everything, and nothing has been too horrible. It's always been on my own mistakes if I've lost something. It's not because the army is ridiculous that I'm against. So I think it's in a pretty good place, to be honest.
That's great,
considering there was so much rules release over that period.
Yes.
With all of those Grotmas attachments and the data slate, like so much happened, and it seems to have it's just worked. It's just fitting quite nicely. So
I think that's completely fair.
I'm pretty happy with how.
I think considering how much stuff that got dropped, right?
Yeah.
I agree. I think to actually have it all shaking out alongside each other fairly well, it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty cool achievement.
Pretty nice.
I think we'd have definitely had a lot more to say had it not been good. Had it been a complete disaster, I think I'd have had so much running commentary provided for me by all the people that like to talk about this stuff. But actually, they managed to release rules for basically the entire game, and it's been pretty good. It's been pretty exciting. And that's alongside an Eldar book dropping as well, which we'll get to obviously in a moment. But again, as Eldar books go, you've got to say it's landed pretty okay, hasn't it, guys? It's been all right. Those of us who put their necks out,
the internet would agree with you, and half the internet would
disagree
with you.
I put my neck out and said it wouldn't be that bad. It's not been that bad. I don't think it is good, but it's not like it's defining everything under the sun. I think that's pretty spicy. What do you think, Scrivo? What's your feeling on the sort of Grotmas meta and the era we've just had?
When Grotmas kind of landed, I was half expecting it to be the metaphorical, they throw a grenade in a room and then we have to kind of see what's happened to the room a month in. And it's just, I've never really felt like there's been anything that I've gone, oh, that's a real problem. Like, sure, there's some stuff that's probably a little bit overcooked, like a little bit too good. Like, you hear people instantly going, I don't want to play against Bridgehead. I get that. Like, there's always going to be some outliers, right? But I think, if anything, it's shown to me that their kind of approach to how they try to do the balance, where they do these kind of gentle taps, and that apart from, say, something like AdMech that is literally from the ground up needing rewrites of some of the stuff, most things can kind of be kind of tampered with a little bit and kind of fixed. Like, just look at Reavers. Suddenly, people are taking Reavers. People have got Outrider bikes. You're playing Chaps can Space Marines, ignoring the Ultramarine problem. You're actually seeing it happen now. And that tells me that the things they did had a positive impact. I think that's really cool to celebrate. Yeah. They just need to maintain it. I think that's the important thing. It's very easy to go, yeah, they've done it good this time. The next one needs to land just as well. And that's what that's the pressure needs to be for them, that they keep it going.
Yeah, sure. Cool. And how about yourself, Chris? How do you feel? I mean, obviously you've had tons of games lately, so I guess you have a lot of
I've definitely played some games, probably under 10 though. But I think I just echo the same point that if you were to give it a percentage chance of being successful, that they were going to give every army in the game a new detachment, they were going to fix some points, they were going to make a couple of rules adjustments, and they were going to get it spot on, I think most of us would say that that's very, very unlikely. And yet, we are sat here and the internet hasn't blown up because of everything that's gone wrong. and that says a lot. Let's face it.
Yeah.
In general, as soon as Games Workshop get anything slightly wrong, the sky falls down. Everyone jumps on them. Very rarely do you hear a lot of praise for them. And the reality is, things have been fine. The game has obviously had stronger factions and weaker factions, but that is what you need. And it has certainly felt like a rock, paper, scissors element of it. And that makes list building and trying to solve things a lot harder. Yeah, and I think they have got it absolutely right. Obviously, there are a few things which sometimes make people feel bad. I guess it's probably more like an aspect of things. Like you're playing into certain armies, you're like, oh, this feels bad. And in the rock, paper, scissors nature of the game, yeah, you are going to get those matchups. But I think they've done a good job considering. But it does feel now, I guess. I mean, like I said, I haven't been playing a huge amount of games, but also I'm all very much on the pulse in terms of what's going on, and probably feels slightly stagnant. And I think that's why I like the 3-month adaptions, because you play for 3 months, especially if you're into the competitive scene. 3 months is roughly how long it takes for stuff to get solved, or kind of you develop a solid meta, and then and now it's time for a change. Now it's time for those people with whose armies maybe have struggled with, or it can be that. So you've got the nature of buffing the weaker things and like weakening the stronger things, but also what players want to see is those boring middle of the road factions. You just want a bit of tweaking of internal balance, so that you can take new units, and that was what the Grotmus detachments I think did well. You know, you were like, oh, what can I take now? And lots of armies did get new units that they were now getting a look at, like your Reavers and that sort of thing. Grey Knights was like Purgation Marines, and that's what you want. You want every few months to go, oh, I really like this unit. I haven't got to use it for a while. Now that just a couple of tweaks, and now actually, this is actually going to be a fun unit to use. And you just want to get to use your collection. Obviously, Games Workshop want that because they want you to buy all their different models.
Yeah.
So, I think it's good, and they're getting better and better at doing this. So I'm cautiously optimistic that they'll get this one right as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's the nice, quite luxurious position we're in, right? We're coming from a place of luxury here. The game's functioning fine. We see incredibly diverse results out there. You know, again, you just think back to certainly the 9th era where you just look down the event wins after certain books have come out, and that would just be it. It would just be only that book winning everything all the time. And that's just not the era in which we've lived. We've been really spoiled. We've had all sorts of different things working out there for people. A whole bunch of different types of armies doing well as well. It's not one thing. It's not an all-gun meta or an all-melee meta. There's been plenty of representation of all those things. So, yeah, we're very, very fortunate. That said, we're now going to bitch and moan and say what we don't want. So we want to go away, what we'd like to see change and what we'd like to see adjusted. And I'm once again going to throw it up for Ben for a suggestion first. Ben, what's something currently in the game that you'd like to see changed?
Oh, the first one comes to mind. I'm going to go with Drakari first. I'd just like some of our points to be in line with what's in the Eldar Codex.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Like,
that'd be really nice.
Very base, like just bring those points in line.
You've absolutely monkey's pawed that now, because you've guaranteed that what's going to happen is Eldar's going to get more expensive, and we're not going to get anything.
that gets the same result, right?
No, it's not.
Right?
Yeah.
So point structure to Drakari is what we're wishing for here, Ben, is it?
Yes, ideally, like just a couple. I don't think it needs loads. Just something to bring it back into line with what we've got in other books now. I know people will be like, "Oh, bring Scourge back down." I'm like, yeah, they're okay. They're okay at 130, I think. They're pretty good. They're a pretty core unit for us. And that's probably controversial. Every Drakari player's out here crying now, being like, "No, make Scourge 110 again." But
that's fine.
Get in the bin. They're fine.
They are in. They've had so much love in different ways, and
exactly.
I for the life of me at the moment, I couldn't tell you how good Drakari actually is. Like, I honestly can't. Like, I played Reaper's Wager a bunch, and I was like, this is good. Like, it's definitely a good detachment. You can do some good stuff with it. The other ones aren't bad, and they sit in such an odd place where it's like it sort of depends what else is doing well as to how good they are. Right? Like, if there's one or two of the things they don't like, that's what will determine their their futures. But yeah, I think let's have something nice for Drukhari so players can get excited.
Just a little something. So we'll start
something
off light
to
with that.
keep those Archons happy. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
How about yourself, Chris? What's a change you'd like to see?
I guess if I talk about Eldar, it's an interesting one, right? Like as I mentioned earlier, like I'm on various Discords, and it's obviously the Eldar players or players of any army. We are always aware more of our army's weaknesses than players who play against us.
Yeah.
Eldar have a lot of rules which I could imagine are proper feels bad about from your opponent, especially take something like Ynnari. It's like, oh, what? So I shoot something and you can just move something else. Like, how's that fair? Oh, the Incarn appears there. Oh, great. Oh, you sticky that objective. Oh, and then you've moved on to the other objective. This is fun, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of potential feels bads there. And I doesn't feel like Eldar or even Ynnari, especially annihilating all competition. I mean, you take Manchester Super Major as an example. Not some of the very strong players took Eldar. Didn't really. We only had one. We had Colin Powell came sixth, didn't he? But other than that, the results weren't particularly amazing. And it's like Eldar feel in a reasonable place, I think. But they're creating feels bad for people. So then it's in terms of addressing that, you've also got the fact of internal balance, and I think that it feels like a more likely route for GW to go. For example, let's face it, Fire Dragons are pretty good for 100 points, just wiping out most vehicles in the game. When can't be Overwatch, that feels like a reasonably good trade. And so from an internal balance perspective, you're like, well, realistically, we need to push the points of those up. But if you do that, does it then create a thing where an Eldar list suddenly loses a unit or two, and then suddenly actually they just can't function in the way that people are currently seeing how they should be built? So I think they have to be really careful with Eldar, especially this early on, right? Like if people are saying, "Oh, this is like," you see a lot of the similar lists out there, but are they the best lists? Like, how the hell do we know them? Know what the best lists are? Like, it could quite easily be someone comes up with something, and it turns out that something people hadn't really considered was actually the way forward. My personal perspective, I like to see a bit more niceness to Harlequins. I think they have got some really cool rules. I think they're very much masters of the death by 1,000 cuts some of the time. But they are so fragile. So fragile. They just, like, literally any opposition in the game can just kill them. And, like, one of the reasons, obviously they were obscene at certain points in ninth, but once they got neutered down, they had this, like, that no rerolls against the vehicles thing. That's a really nice, just little defensive edge. -1 to hit in combat all the times, a nice little defensive edge. Just those things that just sway the stats slightly. Because at the moment, anything can touch them, and it's just like, cool, well, you're dead. Which I think is a shame. A Void Weaver for 125 points. Like, what the fuck? That thing is trash. And I think that would be nice for Harlequin players. They've got some cool stuff. I think just give us another unit or two, and I think that's what I would like.
That'd be good fun to see. No, I agree. I do think they need to be careful with Eldar. Having played against most variants of it now, it's like Ynnari is probably the worst one. I think that's the one that has an awful lot of agency for the Ynnari player and less for their opponent. I think it's the strongest, most flexible way of playing them. The problem will be, not all the other attachments can't all do what Ynnari can. Which means that the risk is that then certain units suffer because of how they're being applied in one place, and you leave the book quite distorted. But we'll see. I think it'll be all right. I think the book's strong, and I think it can hang. So I think it's just a case of nudging things around. Right? Probably feels about right for Eldar.
I feel with like Ynnari, you could just change the move after the shooting thing, right? So you can't use battle focus tokens on it.
That might be a good change. That would be fair.
You
can't super yeet.
And maybe you can't do it on transport of vehicles and stuff. Just little somethings like that. Just little tweaks just to make it slightly more manageable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We said as ever. There's people with opinions on Eldar in the chat, and that makes sense. And I do completely get it. I cannot emphasize enough. This is not an Eldar rule set that is like so oppressive as to make everything ridiculous. I think you very much have game into Eldar. You just have to do the things they don't like. But yeah, I'd be surprised if they're hitting other things at the top of the game. I'd be surprised if they're not looking at Eldar as well, right? Scrivo, what's the change you'd like to see, mate?
So there is this big elephant in the room that everyone seems to have this real hard-on for Gilliman and him writing a book about being compliant to a set of rules.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he actually stole those rules. So like when you're doing your homework and your friend sat next to you and you say you can copy it but change it a little bit. The Hexagrammaton baby is the Codex Astartes. So, in my opinion, they shouldn't be Codex compliant for the benefit of rules anyway. Because at the moment, the way that the Ultramarines are working seems a bit too overcooked, and it means they're benefiting way more than the guys that I think really needed the help.
Yeah, that's fair.
And a lot of people are mentioning about taking away the Codex compliant detachments from the non-compliant Marines. When you look at the data, I think that's a very bad mistake to make, because if you, for example, Dark Angels, if you take out Gladius, Stormlance, they get to like the 30s. That then kills a faction. So I don't think they'll do that, but I feel like they need to do something to help your fledgling Imperial Fists players and Grave Guard players that actually want to play their armies. And then also the whole Bloodless Angels thing. Clearly not what they intended. It just feels a bit silly.
That for me, that annoys me more than Ultramarines.
And I've had people ask
at
me,
least with Ultramarines, you're using the Ultramarines stuff.
Exactly.
And that's what makes it good.
Exactly.
With BA, you're like, what if we just didn't run any of the things that make Blood Angels cool whatsoever?
Yeah.
And just basically settled on taking like a Pippa's strength and whatever else you get.
And people asking me, I was just like, why would you?
It's
like,
really
imagine that.
lame.
Imagine me not taking Deathwing Knights. I might as well just paint them blue. It's just so silly.
Yeah. So I think they've opened up a ton with the change. What I would say is, I think at the level of people having fun with the armies they like, they've done wonders with Space Marines. I've seen people doing all sorts, having a great time, but at the top of the game, it doesn't look very interesting. Which was exactly what I said it would be when they did it, because it's exactly how it always is with Space Marines. So let's take away some of the more brainless rules. I think that makes sense. I'll be interested to see what they do for Ultramarines.
I think you could go Gilliman and make it, because he can do 2 of his abilities now, right?
Yeah,
that was one of the last changes. I think you make it, he can only do 1 again, so you either get in all the CP or double oaths.
Yeah.
And I think if you go double oaths, you can't get the +1 to wound, so you can either choose a single oath and get +1 to wound, or if you choose both, you don't get +1 to wound on either.
Yeah, that's quite smart. Yeah, don't hate that.
That feels sensible, because that's what people are kind of leveraging with their kind of gun lines, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. Was that a compliment, by the way? I'm just that wasn't bullying.
Ben, great idea, but sort your hair. God, it's so good to be mean.
Shout out to we've got a bunch of people who've just popped up in the chat. Shout out to Emily Barrett, who says Tau got nerfed before the book was legal. Yunari move after shooting phase is auto winning some armies. Yeah, it is very powerful. It's a very, very powerful mechanic. So I think it's one they have to get the balance of right. I think. A BA player on Inado hates Bloodless. Yeah, I don't think any actual Blood Angels players love that, right? And certainly for me, like the release, the models they got, Mephiston out there, Sanguinors out there, you've got Dante with his Sangor. There's so many cool things you can do in Blood Angels, and you're like, I don't want any of that. What I really want is for my incursors to kill tanks. And you're like, okay, yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. I get it.
It's sad.
It's just really, really lame. And Command Protocols podcast, Matt Bell with his Necrons is in the chat as well. Welcome. And our very own Ed Watts is in the chat. Hello, Edward. Nice to have you in. What a busy day it is. Everyone's very excited.
I know. I didn't realize
a game shake-up. I will. I'm trying to think. Where will I go for this? What am I going to suggest for a balance change? I would like to see. I think the one I hate the most is Bridgehead. If I'm honest, and it's not just because I've played against it a ton. It's just that ordinary guardsmen paratroopers should not hit with the accuracy of a Space Marine captain.
Custody.
It's not right.
Custody, yeah.
It's not weird, right? Morally right. It's stupid. It's so stupid. And like to the point, like honestly, having practiced against Bridgehead a ton and playing against Alex Fowler, getting ready for Pyre and all these different things, you're like, you don't need to roll bridgehead activations. There's no point. Like it will literally come down and it will delete whatever it wants to shoot in almost any context. And that when you've got something where the rules has led it to a point where it's like I literally know there's no need. I don't need to even see what happens with the dice, no matter what unit it is I put out. Then it's too juiced, isn't it? So I think Bridgehead needs to look at. And because I actually really like the Guard Codex as well. We tried a bunch of different detachments out. I think there's some really cool things there. But I think at the moment Bridgehead is standing so far above the rest.
Bumper Clark, that's amazing.
Bridgehead players link windows. Well, it is. I think the best comparison for me is it's actually a lot. It's a lot like Index GSC this time around, which again was the "Here come my guys, you're dead," and it's got the same get back in position and kill you somewhere else. It's got some of the same weaknesses, to be fair, but it's just it's pretty miserable. It's a shotgun to the head type list. So I think for the guard book to thrive, Bridgehead might need to suffer. I think that'd be very, very good to see. So I'm going to roll it back around to you, Ben, and see if you've got any other sort of suggestions for us.
I have. I don't know if you can tell. I've been thinking about this today. Where was I at? I think we might have covered them all almost immediately. So
that makes sense.
I'm quite sad.
I think there's quite a universal agreement on what we'd like to see change.
Yes. I feel like Tau and Sisters need something, right? I don't know what they need.
Tau don't need anything.
Screw Tau.
Exterminatus.
I'm gonna hear you out, Ben. Go on, explain.
They just feel a bit nothingy, right? So I've played Tau a couple times now again, and they just don't really do anything. I don't know, is Drakari a good matchup into Tau? I'm not sure. Yes. But Tau have always sort of terrified me. You think, I just have old memory. I'm like, they're going to blow me off the board, and they just feel really, really lackluster. They maybe come in, kill a unit, and that's it.
Yeah.
I do agree. They probably do need a good kick in the shins.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Ultimate Funk, the people's hero is just let's just kick him again. But the thing is, Ben, you're correct. You are correct. And I don't know what it is they need. Yeah. But they do need something because they've had a funny old time of it. They haven't really ever had their moment. No. In the edition, actually, to be honest, not since the Tetras went away. So they do need something, but I just don't. It can't be more points drops. Yeah, it can't be more points drops because they have a lot of stuff on the board. So it's going to be interesting. But then Sisters, Sisters only just went away for doing awful crimes, Ben. So what do you propose? How do we fix Sisters?
So Sisters lost their Miracle Dice, right? They had that nerf immediately after the Codex with Bringers of Flame, and that was obnoxious. I will agree. It was horrible. And then they had this weird triple Exorcist build for a short while. They did. And they were kind of okay, but no one likes triple Indirect. It's not fun for anyone. It is what it is. And then they got this Grotmust attachment that was like, cool, you can do fun things with Miracle Dice. And then the Dataslate dropped, and they went, get in the bin. No Miracle Dice for you. Yeah. we want you to have this Grotmust attachment, but you can't use the Miracle Dice, basically. So I don't know whether they just need some slight tweaks there. I don't know how to address that.
Make Penitent Host good. That's what I think. I don't care about the other attachments. Just make the one that involves chain swords.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think everyone will be fine with that. If you're getting twatted by Sisters, melee Sisters, I think you'd be like, that's fine. Yeah. That's fun. Yeah, I'm here for it.
Unless the new kill team's really busted, and I don't think it's going to be. There's a Death Cult Assassin.
Right, John, you've got your kill team head on more than me. It looks like it's just a bunch of preachers who are going to fight some corn nutters, basically. So how does that? They don't have weapons, do they? It didn't look like they did. They're like a sort of. What are they?
There's a guy with a chainsword. There's some melee there, but it just feels like a weird unit. So they're going to get that and be like, there you go. Yeah. Here's another 100-point cheap unit to go with your other 100-point cheap units.
Yeah. It was a weird kill team. I actually quite like it because it's so weird. It's like proper
It's some of the classic stuff, like the Confessors and stuff, are all things they had in their original codex. So it's really cool, but I'm not sure it fits in an army. That's why it's in kill team, I guess.
Recommending Tau Shin kicking Ultimate Funk says, haven't we all had enough of Sisters? I remember when they were an all-metal army that approximately 6 people played. Bring that back, I say. I don't think we need that. Oh, dear. Oh dear. And Sam Dunn in the chat, yeah, you've called it, Sam Dunn. I pray those aren't infiltrating jackals.
Those quick robot legs that Darth Maul has. Oh, yes, please.
I tell you, World Eaters with an infiltrate unit is putting some cats among some pigeons, isn't it? That changes the complexion of a few games quite radically, I'll tell you that. It's pretty funny. So maybe they are. Maybe that's what their stilty legs mean, but I don't know. I hope they just have a scout move like all the rest of the World Eaters stuff. And they just get
closer.
They just
get closer.
Exactly as stuck as all the rest of the army. But you've got like goat legs or whatever it is they're doing. They're very weird looking models to us. Oh dear. Okay. Yeah. So I mean that sounds fair. Tau probably and Sis is probably both two of the more sort of lesser seen armies of this meta, I guess. So I don't think it's unreasonable to want nice things for them. I think we all need to recognise now that if Tau do become good, we have to deal with Tau being good.
Yeah.
It needs the finesse angle to it, right? It can't just be like, I just shove guns down your throat and blow your head off. It needs to be, we have to do some tricks to make it work. And it should be a house of cards that falls down the minute you get hit by some melee, perhaps.
Yeah.
But how do they express that rather than just rewriting all the stuff?
Yeah. I got no idea. I'll take it over to you, Chris. What's the recommendation for yourself? What would you like to see?
I think the obvious one that needs to be touched on is Slaanesh Demons.
Very good.
I feel bad. But having never played them, I don't really know anything about it, so I'm going to let someone else talk about them.
Basically, Chris, it's very obnoxious because it bounces. It can just pass off wounds in places, but also the army gets full rerolls to hit and wound by running into you, and that is absolutely insane on some of their units.
But we were only allowed it to hit on one unit because it was too good to wound on that one unit.
So Slaanesh is one of those ones where it's so strong into a whole suite of different things, and as I say, Will Whitaker, who played for us at Pyro, was just absolutely castrating people with it. And he was castrating people whose lists had been designed to beat Slaanesh, right? Kruka from Poland comes in with a Space Wars list. He's literally designed it to take Slaanesh on. And Will's just like, no, 20 OU, don't care. That was the same. I had a Vanguard list where, again, we thought a lot about things we could build into their tools, we could build into that deal with Slaanesh and get in the game. No, get out of the way. Smashed. Like, it's extremely strong. So I don't know exactly what you fix, whether it's just too much stuff on the board, but that's going to hurt them in any other detachment because they are obviously wildly stronger in the Slaanesh detachment than else. Or maybe it's that the passing the wounds off is a bit too easy and a bit too good at the moment potentially as well.
Can maybe change it so it's not mortal wounds; it just counts as single damage rather than mortal wounds. So you can't plug in something like the epitome.
Yeah, because people are using the
feel no pain passes off on that. Maybe small changes in that direction. I don't think it's going to get small changes, but
yeah, I feel like it's probably the strongest army of this era. I know Bridgehead is very powerful, but actually Slaanesh has been very, very, very strong, and I think Slaanesh feels incredibly oppressive in certain situations.
Can I just say, I think it's really cool. I actually really like it.
I love it. Oh, if I own that army, I'd play the shit out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Aidan Brockhorst is talking about having a collection of wreckage from chasing the meta. Yeah, I mean that's the business we're in, unfortunately. I think it's it's an interesting one. But I think, so Slaanesh and Bridgehead are the two above all else. I really feel like it would be good to see some targeted changes. They're both obnoxious in different ways. Is there any other changes you'd like to see, John? You've obviously had your Marines recommendations.
Yes, because that was the obvious one. So the way I'm looking at it is we've got a roadmap where we've got a lot of chaos shite coming up, right? And there is some poor souls that have one functioning detachment and one that exists for them that are the Leagues of Votann. And because they're going to be waiting a long while, I feel like I'm hoping they get a bit of a kind of a love tap up. Maybe not
they need to make the one that came out work, don't they? Yeah. I think that's an issue.
There's been some rumors floating around about them getting their double thingy token in both. So if that's the sort of thing that we see, great. That sort of touch makes something that detachment playable. I don't think they need loads of points changes drastically.
No.
Just a little bit of a shake up like that in the rules, I think, could do the trick.
Yeah,
we'll have to see.
Whatever, something that gets the half band, I think it is, in play would be cool to see.
Yeah,
and that's certainly
because I've not seen it played, and that's
no, I haven't.
Right?
I am. Davey and I were talking about doing bat reps on the day before our event up at Prestige, and I might well bring the Votan up and run that detachment just for a giggle and to try something out. So
to give Davey a win.
David doesn't get wins off my Votan. He tries. He absolutely tries. We'll see. I mean, but I think I'd like to see that detachment be made functional. I think that would be very cool. I'm trying to think what else there is out there. Really, I think we're in the luxury of trimming things and adjusting things rather than needing to completely redo things. One thing that I think is very interesting is whether or not orcs actually need changes. I don't know how others feel. This is orcs, obviously tactical brigade. This is something that's been. It is very powerful. It's had a good couple of months. I think orcs have gone up a level with the new units that they got, the breaker boys and the tank busters and everything else. But it doesn't look, certainly at a data viewpoint from zoomed out and from an event wins viewpoint, it doesn't look like they've been oppressive. And so I can't decide. Maybe you need like a little love tap on the new units, the breakers and the tank busters or something like that. But I think potentially what I'd still really like for orcs was to try and resuscitate some of the other detachments. I think things like bully units. Boys would be nice to see. Yeah. I still think Mega Knobs have been done a bit dirty and could do with being maybe even if you nudge the points back down on them again, so you have more of an elite melee option for orcs would be quite nice to see again. I don't know. I
think that's a general point that internal balancing. Let's face it, there are quite a few armies. Well, I don't know, there's like 26 armies in the game, right? And we're talking about very specific ones. There's a lot across the midboard who have just stagnate quite quickly. I mean, I could obviously talk about Grey Knights and that sort of thing. What you want as a player is every 3 months, as I said earlier, to have and be able to cast a new eye over your army list. And if you went Grey Knights, you went people taking Purgation Marines. Let's internally balance those. Let's put them up from 120 to 125. Ooh, that's exciting. But Interceptors, maybe they're a bit too much at 130, so we'll make them 125 as well. And what you've done is everyone's got exactly the same list as they did before. So I think what people from this big wide range, so like orcs and that sort of thing, we all know that Tyranids will get hit in some completely pointless way, and Exocrines will go up as well, or whatever. But it won't impact the actual list or army, the way you're building armies. Yeah. And all people want to do is have similar strength level. Well, probably want to be slightly stronger, let's face it. But they want to be able to get to use new units and breathe new life into that army. World Eaters players must be pretty bored at the moment. They have literally just been the same army since 10th, or since whenever Vanilla wrote his list. So I think those are the sorts of things. It's just I think it does ask a lot of people to be kind of the developers to be doing that constantly. Like that's really hard work, and you're gonna get things wrong. And they probably want to play a bit safer, don't they? Really. So you won't really see these big changes. We're all so passionate about our own armies. And that's why the Grotmus thing was so good, because it completely revolutionized it. It probably is asking a bit too much to once again us all. I suspect they're probably going to focus down on certain armies. Then we've got books coming out to readjust balance for other armies. So like Grey Knights, for example. Like this, nothing happens here. Fair enough, that's fine. They've got a new book coming out this year. I suspect that's how they go. It's not going to be a broad changing thing. It's going to be few armies get quite a focus. Everyone else gets completely pointless updates. And then we go again in 3 months' time.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it's because releases have slowed down a bit. I think that certain armies do feel that more than others, right? I think it's definitely World Eaters, armies that have been on index for a long time now. I think no matter what way they ring it and slice it, it's hard to keep making those exciting because we're a lot of the way through an edition now, and ultimately it's going to be about how they manage to get that to sit. Really, I think. So yeah, definitely tricky. I guess one question I had for you guys is there anything like a sleeper? Are there any armies we need to be a little bit worried about that might be unleashed? Like if they assume they actually take the top on, are there any armies sort of following up behind that we actually need to be a little bit concerned about unless they themselves get some kind of adjustment?
I think that's a really hard question to answer, which is what you want.
I say I can't call it.
World Eaters. That's always they're always the ones, aren't they? The World Eaters.
I think World Eaters might finally have had enough nerves.
But no, let's say a world where Slanesh get nudged, Bridgehead gets nudged. Well, what are the other guard detachments like? Are they good?
You're going to say aspects then?
No, I didn't want to. I think. Well, I mean, listening to David Gaillard talk, there does seem to be quite a lot of power in.
I think there's tons of stuff.
But as we all know, all guard players are bad, so we'll never actually find out what.
That's the tragedy, right? Getting Bridgehead meant that the Codex has kind of been quietly put to one side because they don't necessarily need to focus on it. So maybe we'll see more of that coming out. Just if Bridgehead gets a tone down.
I'll say Knights because Knights are suddenly for some reason winning all the time. So
they are very consistent
out of nowhere.
That's the allies, isn't it? So give them actual tools that aren't just big giant robots, and they can actually play the game. Who knew?
Yeah, 100%.
Imperial Knights are the sleeper hit. You heard it here first.
Yeah, and Alex in the chat shouting out for Yunari. I think Yunari is just is strong, just is good already, and would continue to be good. I wonder about your Death Guards, potentially. They've been very consistently strong for quite a while. No one ever wants to play them. Every Matrix I've ever looked at in recent times has been everyone saying, nope, don't want to do it. So there's definitely something in that. And they're another army that might break out if some of their competitors get weakened down as well. It's going to be really interesting to see. But it's wide open. I feel like there's a lot to play for there, which is awesome.
Which is exciting, and that's what we want. Yeah. We should go, right, it's a new balanced data slate. Things are going to be changed a bit. I'm excited to play, and I go to a tournament, and I feel like I can do well with most of with a bit of luck in matchups and stuff, and that's what you want.
Completely. No, I completely agree. Very exciting to see. I think that's our initial thoughts for now. Obviously, we'll field more questions. What we're going to do is move towards podcast questions. You guys can obviously chuck questions in the chat as well. Thanks for hitting the old like and subscribe. And if you haven't already, go and do that. Remember, you can subscribe.
Do we have a quick check of the likes? Because last time I checked, last week, we had like 50 viewers and like 17 likes. And
let's have a look. How is it compared, Chris?
I rated everyone. We got there eventually. We are currently on 15 likes, and we have a high of 83 viewers. So we had 83
Sort it out, guys.
Watching,
sort it out.
And we're 18 likes now.
Perfect. Yeah, get those likes and subscribes on. That would help us a lot. And obviously,
would you be sad if you realised that 18th like was me?
No, not at all. That's lovely. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to like whatever you like. Reminder in the chat that we're basically deciding if we're all going to wear 40k fancy dress for our event in a couple of weeks' time. So if you would have strong opinions on us wearing 40k fancy dress at the 6 Plus GT, then shout us out in the chat. That'd be great. And obviously, come and get involved with the YouTube membership as well. Unlock those other parts of the Discord. And if you're interested in getting some 40k coaching with myself, Chris, or Ed, that has been booming. We're having a great time with it. Absolutely,
so much.
Absolute truckloads of mentoring. We're like,
we might have to create a new Discord.
I think we probably do.
Clients only.
I think we probably do need a coaching Discord.
So many people.
It's a lot. It's really exciting. And if you're interested in getting involved and leveling up your game, come and join us because we're having a blast with it. It's really, really good fun. Alrighty, let's take it to some podcast questions. You in the chat can obviously drop them in, and if you would like to super chat us, we'll of course prioritize it because we are shameless. I'm going to pick out Raptor Jack's question from the Discord first because Raptor Jack has been a recent sign-up of ours, and he has been very, very enthusiastically supporting every bit of content we've got, which is absolutely awesome. So thank you, Raptor Jack. That's really, really cool. So Raptor Jack's question is, do you think the Ballistas Dread should be adjusted? Predators 135, box Dreads are 135. It is cheap. It is cheap. But that is why it's even involved in the conversation.
It's the only reason it's being used.
They kept bringing it down until they finally found a price point at which it sort of sits okay. So I don't hate where the Ballistas is. It feels okay, I think, for its points. but it could probably stand to go up 10. I think 10 would be fine. I think 140 ballistas I'd be perfectly happy with. I like the land speeders. I want those around. Those are fun. Those storm speeders. I want more of them in my life. They're really cool looking.
Whenever you see land speeders, it's because Marines are broken.
It's the first thing to die.
Generally, in my experience, if people are starting to put land speeders in, it's because they can alpha strike their army. They can just blow their opponent off the table. That's just so
9th edition.
No land speeders. No.
Oh, can I bring them all back? They're in the garage.
Yeah,
there's only 12 of them and 2 Talon Masters.
Yeah, as others in the chat are saying, it's the updated oaths is probably what's making ballistas sing a little too much. But
yeah,
Ultimate Funk wants Chris to dress up as Lady Hesperax. I think that'd be awesome.
I don't think anyone wants to see that.
It'd be a very sexy.
I kind of do want to see that.
we can make that happen. Don't you worry. We can do it. We got a question from BCG Cypher in the chat who asked, how do you think Emperor's Children will affect the meta? Are they coming in weak or strong? I've not actually devoted tons of time to looking at Emperor's Children yet because I've been busy as hell. But it's very quick and it's got some tricks.
And then it dies.
Is the vibe.
Jail list, from what I've heard.
Yeah, it feels. It does. I think it will be impactful because there's a lot of people sniffing around it. There's a lot of people testing it out. Like, I think there is excitement there. I think the question is whether it's going to be impactful enough to be. I think the standard for actually being like meta defining now is so much higher because players have got used to the fact they can play whatever they want. Like, to actually make people push and go and bandwagon hard onto a faction now, you have to be really cracked. Because we're just not seeing that. We're really not seeing that. There isn't that sort of, everyone's playing this now. Even Eldar, who are one of the most popularly owned powerful armies out there, are not everywhere. And it's not what everyone is running at events. I don't see Emperor's Children being so good as to shape the meta in that way. I think that's probably a good thing. Actually, a bit tedious. It was just an EC bandwagon. I'm hearing a lot of people are not loving Fulgrim, which does make me a bit sad. I want Fulgrim to be a big part of Emperor's Children and be out there. It sounds like maybe it's not Fulgrim yet at the moment, but we'll see. I suspect because of the way a lot of the rules interact are quite weird, we need to see people really get their heads around some of the weird attachments and properly start puzzling those out. As Matt Riley says, I think it does look like a high ceiling army. I think it looks very cool, but I don't see how it, with its current set of things it can be like the defining force in the game. It doesn't have that kind of power, as far as I can see. One thing I am interested to see is how they reconcile Noise Marines in Chaos Space Marines, because that is a unit that I think sits very nicely in Chaos Space Marines. It's a sort of mid-range shooting unit that they do not have. Alex Fowler says the same in the chat. Yeah, I think in Renegade Raiders, Noise Marines could be pretty freaky. Let's put it that way.
But that'll be potentially brought in separately, and so it'll be at different points and everything, right? So it might be.
Well, we'll see.
Sheet,
we'll see. We'll see how they manage it. We'll see how they manage it. At the moment, they just plug in like rubrics or plague marines. It's what they do with anything else. But maybe they'll make them take the other ones, the battle line guys, instead. Not sure. I like the comment from Scurvy Gordon who says more like half grim at the moment. Yeah,
I'm alright.
I got time for that. That is excellent. That is a lot of fun. Okay, moving it back, we've got a question from John P. Watson in the Discord. 6 months ago, we had armies that were all in the Goldilocks zone, but we had some clear outliers at the top, which would seemed dominant. Sisters, Guard, Thousand Suns. Today, we have factions much further out in terms of win percentage at both top and bottom, but the top factions feel less oppressive than Miracle Dice, 18 Ball, Indirect Flamers, etc. Even Sinesh. Do you agree? And is competing more enjoyable now than 6 months ago when things were ostensibly more balanced? That's a great question.
I think I like to be able to turn up to a tabletop and feel like whoever I play got a chance into. And 6 months ago, it felt like there was some pretty horrendous matchups that you had to really tailor for, potentially. Like trying to build a list to take on LGT, for example. Whereas nowadays, I feel like I would feel more confident, even though I don't know what the armies necessarily do. Like I never played into the Nesh Demons, but I still feel like maybe I'd have more of a game into it, rather than like if I played into a particular matchup 6 months ago. So I guess now I would be happier. Would be my my own opinion.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think that's fair, and it's an interesting thing. I think the difference between then and now is that there were just so many different things unleashed in the last balance state that there wasn't a way for the top, if you will, of players to kind of crystallize around a couple of options. When they do that, the game feels incredibly boring because there is not a lot of room for expression, and also once you have all the top players playing the same 2 or 3 things, that's when you get big bandwagon effects and it all gets very joyless and predictable and similar. Grotmus was simply too ambitious for that to happen, which is what's exciting about it. Like, there was just too much going on, right? Every single top player you could name went and did something different. That's how many options there were going. And so I think that's the big difference. And that again, that's where this go wide balancing is so cool. It just feels like there's so many different things. We've talked about it. We've got Sam in our team is very excited about the Angelic Inheritors, is it? The weird Blood Angels one. And literally only Jack Harpster's run that, right? I've not seen people really doing that. But he's made that work, and there's something cool and interesting there, and that's where we're at. Where there's all these lovely little pockets you can go and explore, and I think that's really exciting. It's just deciding which one to actually go and play. Okie dokie. And then Chris the Glove asks, if GW were to say meh looks fine and not update anything until June, do you think the meta would change much? Or would it still be elves and +1 to wound Space Marines pulling further away? Yeah.
Well, I think having Empress Children kind of splash in there a little bit, and then maybe people getting bored of playing just Bridgehead might make people then deviate from that. So there might be some mix-ups. Because people tend to get that. When things get solved, they try to look at how to counter the solved solution almost, and then kind of try to solve something that doesn't necessarily need solving, but do just for the sake of it. So maybe then we see people kind of pissing around a bit more and being a bit more innovative.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see about elves whether left, if it was left completely as it is, would Eldar gradually actually be able to consolidate a very strong win rate? Maybe. I'm not sure. I feel like there's enough counterplays in how Eldar play, and how kind of have since the book came out. But that would be an interesting one to see. I think they'll be more ambitious though, so I don't think we're not going to get to find out. I think they're going to shake some stuff up. I think. Ten asks, what is the most important change GW can make that is not related to Space Marines, Eldari, Guard, or Demons? Do you have any thoughts, Ben?
Good luck.
Sideswiped.
Drakari punch drops.
That was it. That was the right answer. That was the correct answer. That's why I teed you
Always
up.
the correct answer.
Make Drakari great again. Let's have a reign of terror. I don't care how it comes. Maybe 60-point venoms, perhaps. That'd be fun.
Oh,
that'd be delicious. Got a question from Raptor Jack for Scrivo. What is the biggest difference between GW terrain and others? I've only played it at my local GW store. I see tournaments around me are using different terrain. Might be a good video. There you go.
Yeah, we had that chat before in the Discord.
Yeah,
question. We did want to do a video on it.
Yeah, definitely on the list, because there's a lot of shared similarities, but differences enough that it can influence how you build lists. So it's kind of good to be aware.
Give us one difference, Scrivo, and how it affects your list building.
So, for example, a lot of the GW terrain is a lot more open for actual walls. So things like vehicles, I think, are a lot easier to kind of traverse around the board. So you can get a lot more angles cut with it, while, say, something like WTC, where the long edge of the terrain pieces are a lot more wall-based, means it does tend to influence a little bit more of a bias where you kind of want to have some infantry just for that freedom of movement. But you still see tanks. But it's just requires a bit more finesse about how you're positioning your stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? It's a very different meta, and it feels like you can have big things staged on GW terrain that can suddenly spring into the game quite happily through some of the little lanes they've created, and that's quite nice. Paolo Thompson says, give me hope for my Imperial Agents army. I think that Imperial Agents are just quite an abusive army for them to put into the game in the form that they've put. Because kids, I was saying this, like, kids are going to go into stores, think Imperial Agents is an army, and buy it, and they're screwed because it's not good. Like, it's not good. Like,
I want to like it, I just can't. I love all the stuff.
I don't fully understand it. I feel like they need to give it a bit more teeth. It needs to have a bit more damage in there.
It had a few tricks, but it had no output. That was the...
Yeah. I feel like they were super safe with it, and they kind of settled for it being like an allies book. Really, I think they were like, let's not even try to make it really stand on its own 2 feet.
But that's a shame. Side units, right? It's just here's a bunch of kill teams and other units, and there's not like a foundation to it. You don't go, oh, that's clearly a battle line unit. It's that's the battle line unit. It's always a surprise what actually things are supposed to be. It doesn't feel like a cohesive army, and I don't think it should ever really have felt like that, unless you have their own version of guard. Like if they had like an equivalency of their own actual guard units, because they're not gonna. I don't think they just give people guard. They seem to be staying away from giving each other the same unit in different armies now. So
yeah, for sure, that's definitely interesting. We've got hello Connor, nice to have Connor Nichols in the chat. We've got a few nice comments. Ryan asked if we talked about Dark Angels. We actually didn't talk about Dark Angels. Dark Angels are sort of fine, right?
They're kind of knights.
No,
they're ticking along.
Definitely knights. Fuck off.
They've managed to find a point where people run the line, so I don't actually listen to Dark Angels players explaining why he's not as points efficient as more Deathly Knights.
They're wrong. That's
they're fine. I think they're fine. They're just sort of fine. They're a casualty of the new O's, aren't they? Really, because it's not as exciting to run Dark Angels as it is to be +1 to win.
I think if you want to fix Dark Angels, you do something about their detachments, because the fact that the rules are either around being battle shocked or attacking stuff on objectives is so signposted. It's not very interactive, and when Company Hunters is great, don't get me wrong, people are having success with it. When Stormlance just does it easier, people are not going to switch off of it. So there needs to be a point of difference to that, I think.
Yeah, completely.
But you're not going through, right?
Probably
Next edition.
They don't feel like they're high on the list. They've had a decent edition so far. Yeah. We had a good shout out from Bumperclot who asked if they'd be interested to see a video about the differences between beginner, intermediate, and advanced comp players and how they play the game. That's a really interesting video.
That's a hilarious video, because you could do like this. This is a checklist. So like, where as a teacher, when I'm marking a piece of work, it's like, is it working towards a national standard? I have to have a tick box of things. If they're doing those things, I tick them, and then we go on to national standard. Are they doing those things? Yeah, cool. Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
So we could do that and just piss everyone off.
I think it was really fun.
There's definitely like, fuck, I'm not a beginner player. I'm like, well,
there's definitely like a list. There's a list of things where it's like, if a player when I don't know someone's level when I'm playing them, there's like a few things where like if they've done 2 or 3 of those things in the first turn, my brain's gone, we're fine. We're here. We're okay. There's nothing. But if they've done if all those boxes have gone on tick, you're like, okay, fine.
Tom goes like this. If you start doing Tom's like this, he's like
literally it.
Quiet, and he's twiddling.
I can attest. If I'm twiddling the hair when I'm playing you, you're doing it right, and it's hard.
I haven't seen it for a while, Tom. I haven't seen it for a while.
It's when they start pre-measuring stuff. It's when they start being like, oh, right, so if you go there, I can go here, or vice versa. I'm like, oh, fuck's sake. They know what they're doing. Damn it.
Yeah, and that is actually something I would say just for free. We'll do this video, but the biggest thing, I think, is there are players who are still at the point where what they're really thinking about is their models and what they're doing with their models. And actually how that all fits together with what you're going to do and what the mission is and how the game is going to be played. Getting that wider understanding, both in how they're designing and playing lists, but also in how they're actually playing on the table. Once you're playing against someone who is anticipating and understanding what you're doing or you can do, and is playing on that basis, that is a wildly higher level game. And a lot of getting better is getting to that point where you're seeing the game as the interaction between the two.
Yeah, that's.
But we can definitely unpack this more.
From having done the coaching now, like until I didn't kind of realize it, but yeah, with coaching, what I realized when I'm talking through my thought process is at the start of my turn, the first thing I do is I work out what my opponent can do in their turn. Yeah. And I didn't necessarily realize I was doing that until I was trying to model how I would talk through my turn or how I played through my turn. Because, when you're coaching people and they're like, right, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. So we haven't paid any attention to what I can do. So, I'm at school, I'm running a chess club at the moment. I'm playing chess against the children, and they're just kind of focused on their
loser.
I know.
You're like, this is the Sicilian Open, bitch.
Boom! You fell for that. They very much just move their pieces, right? They're not thinking, and we're trying to work on, well, if you move that piece, what could I do? Could I, basic levels, like, could I take that piece for free? And in 40k, it's very much you want to plan your turn around what your opponent can do realistically. And yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely some interesting content to be made there. John Black asked, 3-inch deep strike was removed last time. Can we all agree how absolutely screwed we'd have been if Bridgehead had 3-inch deep strike? By the way, that would have been that would have been just completely A-grade insane. What would you remove as a core ability? I don't want to take stuff out. I think it's all fine. I quite like it.
Apart from 3-inch deep strike.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could. I think that was a positive change.
Full reroll to hit and wound across multiple units in an army. I think it should be minimised, because the amount that we actually do still see is unreasonable when things get to hit on 2, wounds on 2s, full rerolls to hit and wound, and just like, cool, where's the maths in this, guys? And also it's a lot of time watching dice roll. I just can't be asked for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't be asked for rolling dice.
Just roll it, and you've missed. There you go. Get on with it. Done.
We've got a question from Gizmo the Wizard. EC Codex review went right. We will do that. We will do that for you. We will do a video where we actually go through the codex. I don't know who it'll be, but we'll rally some people.
I asked people and
get stuck. Yeah, John was like, "I'm going to do this," and I was like, "I just want to not be sick."
Because it's not my thing. So I was like, I'm a word eater's boy.
I'm definitely EC curious, so I think it will rally some people.
Yes, you are.
That's what we heard from.
Yeah, absolutely.
We always knew.
We always, in no doubt. But I think that would be a fun video to make. I think there's lots going on in there. It's quite interesting. So we will do that, and we'll get that recorded in the near future for you. And then we had a good question from John C in the Discord, which might be our last one for tonight, which is, we are observing a number of dead or close to dead factions in the meta currently, from latest Meta Monday, but generally consistent trends. Imperial Agents 4, Thousand Suns 7, Sisters 9, Votan 12. It's tragic the Thousand Suns have 3 more players than Imperial Agents. That's hilarious. Those 4 factions combined had as many players as World Eaters. World Eaters were the 14th most popular. We've seen similar trends previously with Abnec and GSC. What do you think GW should do to address factions that slide to this state? Do you think they should get priority treatment over fixing outliers at the top end of the meta? It's an interesting question. I actually, and this is partly a bias because I like sniffing around for an army that's about to get juiced up again. I actually really like the buffing up of armies and throwing them up into the top of the. I think that's far more interesting and produces a much more interesting set of shake-ups than just culling whatever happens to be on the top, right?
Buff everything up so that everything's up scrapping, and if anything's are sticking their heads a bit higher, tone them back down rather than kind of trying to do it in 3 or 4 takes. Because otherwise that's boring, right? Like watching them just get a little bit of a nibble, and it's just boring. Like look at Admech. Like they're good, but it's not quite fixed, is it?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, I mean, that is what you do. You have to find new. I mean, I think we've seen it with Grotmus. It's detachments can do it, right? Detachments can turn it all around. Drakari was the same. Drakari were a dumpster, and then what they've done is given them 2 good detachments, and now there's lots of life in the army, right? So that's what you do, and you just have to keep targeting and putting those out in the game, and you treating it like DLC, which is awesome. I think it's really fun. Good game. It was very funny explaining to my mate who's not played in this edition. It was like, actually, all the rules for your army we can just download right now, and there's 2 different versions to play. You can play the one where you kill people because that's what you'll like, and it's it's good. It's very, very good.
We had a question from BCG Cypher. Do you guys have opinions on how top cut should be done?
Oh,
because UKTC looking to change. Because obviously UKTC have tried some different things. They've tried strength of schedule. They've tried battle points. You know, we just had the Manchester Super Major where they were like 10 undefeated or so. I don't know. There's a lot of undefeateds, and it's only the top 4 who make it through. And you know, you've got like Josh Roberts who scored 500 points. Alex Harrison who scored 497 points. And I think it's a really interesting one. Like, what is the solution? If you're what's the best way of doing it? I genuinely don't know.
I don't know. I don't think you can square away top cuts in a satisfying fashion at events of that size, really, with the rounds that you have. That's my gut feeling. My honest feeling is I don't give a shit. Is the other one as well, because there's 500 people. There's 500 people at these things, and I don't care about the minutiae of how the 8 or 9 that regularly finish at the very top get whatever satisfaction they're looking to get from that. Like, it's fine. It's nice to be there when it turns up, but I just don't think it matters for the majority of players.
What they could do is what GW did at one of their events last year in the States, and have people rock, paper, scissors for it.
Yeah.
Done.
Perfect.
Then it's just about actual skill.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it is about skill. It's insane. The numbers, like if you look at Roberts' numbers on when Roberts goes on a run, it's just perfect game after perfect game after perfect game. Like it's bananas to achieve that, right? Like so, the standards you now have to reach to be locking in those sort of top competitions is completely ludicrous. Like it's absolutely wild. But no, you look at it like that is something quite remarkable. Like
yeah,
I'm not capable of a run like that. So yeah. Very, very interesting. Sandon says, "What's a top cut? The Promised Land?" Yeah, exactly. It's a thing. So I've only ever gotten a top cut by default once because some people went home. So I don't have any.
We're normally
I
in
don't have
by
any.
That point.
I don't have any real claim to it. Yeah, exactly. My one semi-final appearance against Brian Sight was because I think I was still around when and someone else had gone home. So I've never got in there off my own back yet. But it's just the top end of a UKTC event as a whole is being packed down around you. You can have a stressful, weirdly quiet game against someone else who's very good and try and win some silverware. There's a couple of very good questions in here. So we've got Donald Cowie who says, as someone who suffers from neurodivergent dyslexia, dyspraxia, I enjoy the building and painting side of the hobby, but I've struggled with the match play side of 40k. This could be a show topic onto itself. Yeah, I think that is a really interesting topic, Donald Cowie. I think it's something we've thought about talking about before. And I think in and around neurodivergence and mental health is actually a really interesting conversation. I think we've probably felt we wanted to sort of get a sense of where we're at in this whole thing and be very established in content and everything else before we deigned to kind of wade in on all these sorts of topics, because they're very serious and you've got to get them right as well. You don't want to be sort of chucking bad ideas or bad takes into the wind on it. Yeah. But I do think there's a really interesting set of conversations to be had around all sorts of kind of mental neurodivergence and issues in the hobby and the different sides of it and the different joy that people get out of it or the different issues people face with it. And I think it's something where, it would be nice to actually do some content focused on it. But I think, again, in line with it, as we've never waded into things cheaply. We don't like to do that. So if we do that, we'll have to go away and do some research and think about how we do it properly, I think.
Should point out,
there's definitely some good stuff. Yeah.
Contact Lost did. I swear they had an episode.
He did a series about them.
Yeah.
Yes. So Contact Lost have done some amazing stuff on it. Yeah, Tweak's really good at that stuff. So I think it's a very interesting conversation, and obviously, some of the big channels. I know Vanguard obviously do a lot of stuff on around mental health and neurodivergent stuff as well, and I know Tabletop Tactics have done in recent times as well. I think it's one where it would be a really interesting topic to do. I think it would be nice, probably a good one to find a guest who's in a really good position to speak on some of these things, and
it'd be good
to bring a good voice to it as well. Yeah. I think that's the other thing. But we'll definitely do it. I think it'd be really interesting to do. Then John Black asks, I've only played 10th, but I've heard people talking about invuns being toxic compared to previous editions. Is this true? No, invuns are the nicest they've ever been.
Yeah, then there's not 3-up and 2-up invuns.
Yeah, there were 3-ups and 2-ups everywhere when I played in 8th, and it was cancerous, absolutely cancerous. You're shooting it. I think Storm Shields used to be 3-up invuns just on casual troops. Like, that was nuts.
Yeah, Wolfen had like 3-up invuns.
Yeah. So no, the invuns are broadly in a very, very good spot.
You could give a Shining Spears Exarch a 2-up invun, I think, at one point.
Yes, you could. Yes.
Mine took an has entire, the threat of one, right?
Yeah, a whole Centurion Devastator squad fired at my unit in the Exarch Tactical. It was beautiful. So good. So no, it's fine. So invuns are in a pretty solid place. The beautiful thing now is it's actually the command point economy comboed with better invuns or fair invuns. Is like you don't have that CP to trivially reroll like a 4-up. Like a lot of armies simply do not have it. You feel that big time. A 4-up is so much less powerful when you don't just have loads of CP to just splurge on rerolling.
Especially with things like Armor Contempt being toned down. You're not having this situation where it's a 2-up, 4-up being hidden cover.
Yeah, completely. And Raps Jack's shouting out Ed as a coach and talking about being introverted and playing less games as well. Ed is exactly, if you want to get a little bit more out in the hobby and in the game and being a little bit more extroverted, Ed's your guy. He'll steer you straight, Raps. You'll be just fine. And yeah, lots of good conversation. So I think. Oh, and John Black says Neurodiversity Celebration Week is coming up in 2 weeks' time. Well, that sounds like a good one to pencil in then. So we'll have a look at it. And as I say, I've always been very up for doing it, but I wanted to do it right when we do it. So we've got a couple of weeks now. We can go away and think about how we might approach that and get into that. I think that'd be really, really interesting. So thanks, guys, for bringing that to our attention. That's nice. Barry says you do when you play into Zeech Demons. That's still one of the most fun games of 40k I've played. I don't know if anyone's seen my stream game against Jack, where it's Grey Knights against Zeech Demons. That rule, the detachment rule, just completely
really funny.
It's just really so funny when you're trying to kill a Dread Knight with a Lord of Change, and you're just giving the Dread Knight like five rerolls on its invuln to try. It's just so good.
Yeah, that's what we do. Get rid of rerolls for your own faction, but give them to your opponent. Because that's the most feel bads I've ever had once, where it's like, oh, any critical saves you have to reroll in AOS once, and I was like, cool. Yeah. I'll just fail then.
All right, guys. I think that takes us to the end of the show. You've all been wonderful. This has been a very nice, lively show. So thanks for tuning in.
Wait.
Was there something else?
Yeah. Someone commented on our beards, Tom.
Yeah, Tom.
Where was this?
Right, just above Barry's comment in the live chat.
Ray of
not
sunshine.
a comment on the game. I really like the bearded bros beards. Yeah, I can't join that club, unfortunately.
I've seen Tom try to grow a beard. It's really, really quite endearing. It's one thing I can actually beat him at.
I actually shaved it off. I shaved it off before the show because it was disgusting.
I can tell, Tom.
So horrible.
It's the hobo look, right? You just look like a dishevelled student, and you're not anymore.
I can't do it. It's not for me. It's not for me. No. All right. Well, with my inadequacies laid bare.
I just thought I'm being too mean.
Ben having the last laugh. Yeah. Ben finally getting his lick in today after I bullied him all day. We will call it there. You're all wonderful. We'll see you again very soon. Right, bye-bye.
Bye.